Hello my fellow oddities and welcome to a new video. Today I'm going to be going through each Mortal Kombat movie and discussing what the best scene is from each one. I'll be giving a few nominees and then picking one to be my favorites. And yeah, that's it for the intro. Let's dive right in. So starting off, we have the original 1995 Mortal Kombat movie. There is a lot to choose from here, as this is a really good movie with a lot of great scenes that just have that Mortal Kombat essence to them, and especially that iconic theme. Arguably the most iconic scene of the movie is the Johnny Cage versus Goro fight, and I think a lot of people would choose this as their favorite scene since it's funny, has memorable dialogue, and you got that Goro animatronic that definitely hasn't aged well, but was a really cool practical effect for what it was for the time. However, I don't like the scene that much. It's not a bad scene by any means, but I just feel like it diminishes Goro as a character too much. He doesn't even put up a fight with Johnny, and he's supposed to be the champion of Mortal Kombat, but here he just feels like another goon for the heroes to fight and win against. I can't say the word goon without laughing anymore. It's still a decent scene, but not the best. So looking at some of the other fight scenes we have in the movie, the standouts in terms of choreography are definitely the Liu Kang and Reptile fight and the Scorpion and Johnny Cage fight. Both fights are brutal, or at least as brutal a PG-13 movie in the 90s could get, and both have memorable moments. The Reptile fight is probably a bit more iconic, especially with that reptile theme, but overall I like the Scorpion fight a bit better since it shows off the powers of Scorpion, the wit of Johnny Cage, and has that awesome setting with the Netherrealm, and I think it just shows off more Mortal Kombat-ness. But I'm not going with either of these for my final pick, as there is one fight that I believe may not have the choreography over those two other ones, but it has great character moments, a great theme, and very memorable lines, and that is the final fight between Liu Kang and Shang Tsung. This is the culmination of everything the movie has led up to. The stakes are high, and you're rooting for Liu Kang, unless you're one of those people that likes the villains, in which case you're rooting for Shang Tsung, who is played, of course, by the legendary Cary Tagawa, who just gives an awesome performance throughout the whole movie, but especially in this final scene.
You will die.
And then we get the final fatality with Liu Kang using his fireball to finish Shang Tsung. And the scene is topped off with a genuinely heart-wrenching moment between Liu and the soul of his brother, who is now free. I know it's not the most flashy fight of the movie, but it's my personal favorite for how much it means to the characters and the overall story. Next we have Annihilation. Crap. Well, this one is gonna have to be a fight scene because as bad as a lot of the fights in this movie are, I'd rather the characters be fighting than talking.
Brother, you're alive. Too bad you will die.
So what fights do we have to talk about? Sonya and Melina? No. Liu Kang and Baraka? No. Liu Kang and Shao Kahn? Oh god, no. Scorpion versus Sub-Zero? Maybe. It was the first time we got Scorpion and Sub-Zero fighting in live action. It wasn't exactly under the circumstances we would think, but still, it's better than most of the movie. But the one that I'm gonna go with is the one mostly common positive thing that people have to say about this movie, and that is the cyborgs. The Smoke fight is pretty decent, even though Smoke uses Sector's rocket. So why didn't they just make it Sector? But it's still good, relatively. But the cyborg fight that I'm going to go with is the one with Cyrax. Is the scene flawless? Oh, hell no. Cyrax's voice is super weird.
Death is the only way out. Major Briggs, Sonya Blade, Shao Kahn will be pleased.
His net is weird and the CGI sucks, and Sonya's kiss of death is just very stupid looking, but at least this scene is like somewhat cool. You got a lot of explosions, Cyrax is using his powers, and his design is genuinely awesome. The choreography isn't the worst, especially Cyrax himself has a cool fight style, which must have sucked for the stunt guy to do all these moves in this costume, but it's the least bad scene of the movie, which makes it the best. Though I don't really like using that word, the best. But it is the best. The next movie to come out was Scorpion's Revenge, 23 years later. Yeah, Annihilation was bad. And even though I'm personally not a huge fan of this movie, I do have to admit it has some of the best scenes in Mortal Kombat movie history, particularly the stuff with Scorpion, which really just should have been what the whole movie was about, but they decided to add in all of the original Mortal Kombat stuff, which just overloaded the whole thing in my opinion. Firstly, the opening scene is great. It's very easy to make the raid on the Shirai Ryu by the Lin Kuei interesting, partly because the two characters just have such a great and iconic dynamic that basically writes itself, and partly because it's been done so many times. I don't really like just how violent the scene is though. There is such thing as too much, and I think this crossed the line. And I know some of the people in the comments might be complaining, being like, how can you be a Mortal Kombat fan and think you can cross the line when it comes to gore? I don't know, I think showing a child die on camera with blood spurting everywhere and then their limp body hitting the floor, I think that's too far. And it's part of what I hate the most about these Legends movies. But it is very well written in the way it starts out innocent, and then the slow reveal and buildup of the dead bodies, Harumi, and then the Lin Kuei popping out of the shadows to fight. Another great scene is Scorpion versus Sub-Zero later on in the movie. It's a great fight, the animation looks excellent, and the choreography is really good. Unfortunately, it's over way, and I mean way too quick. Barely a minute passes before Scorpion kills him, which you just can't do for a Scorpion and Sub-Zero fight. That's gotta be the most stacked fight in the movie other than the final fight, and it was just over way too fast in this one. But the one I'll be going with is once again related to Scorpion, and it's another final fight, and it's the one between him and Quan Chi. If you could even call it a fight, it's just Scorpion beating the shit out of Quan Chi. The emotions, the stakes, the performance by Patrick Seitz, which is easily his best alongside MKX, plus we get to see a character like Quan Chi get absolutely brutalized, which is always very fun. I also think this is the first time we heard Patrick Seitz say the famous, "Get over here!" which is really great for him, because Ed Boon, that greedy man, is always hogging the line for himself in the games. The one thing I do hate is the fact that Scorpion steals Sub-Zero's fatality, the head rip with the spine and stuff. I don't know why they do that so often. At least this time he's not using it against Sub-Zero. Next up we have Mortal Kombat 2021, the latest live action release, sequel coming out later this year, and there are a few to choose from. As I've said many times about this movie, Mortal Kombat 2021 is a film with very high highs. I'd say most of the film is on that high level, but it has some very low lows that just drag down the whole thing quite a lot. I want to give a shout out to two non-fight scenes from this movie that I think are really good. The first being the scene between Jax and Sonya, where Sonya motivates Jax, who's not feeling like himself with his little brittle baby arms. It's a super underrated scene that is just like super sweet. It's Sonya giving a pep talk, and there's some humor in there, and it's just a nice interaction. A+. Pat on the back, movie team. The next non-fight scene I want to shout out is the dinner scene where Kano uses his eye laser for the first time. Kano was obviously amazing in this movie, and a lot of people point to this scene as one of the standout moments, but it was also great to see Liu Kang and Kung Lao working together, almost reading each other's body language to irritate Kano, showing how close they are. But it's Mortal Kombat, so fight scenes always have to win. I really love the all-out brawl around the middle of the movie, where they're at Raiden's temple and the Outworlders invade. Reiko fights Jax, Sonya fights Melina, Liu fights Cabal, and of course, Kung Lao absolutely brutalizes Natara. I also love the sort of fake tournament with all the good guys coming out on top. Jax versus Reiko with the head clap, Sonya killing Kano, Liu fire dragoning Cabal. Again, I love this scene a lot. And then there's the final battle between Scorpion and Sub-Zero. And Cole Young, yeah, he's there. He's there all right. But the choreography for the two actors being in these giant suits of armor is really, really good. Sub slashing Scorpion and then freezing the blood, and also the callback to the beginning of the movie. It's so fun. But speaking of that beginning, I have to go with the opening scene here. How could you not? It's honestly crazy the movie goes from being beautiful with the choreography, the cinematics, the shots, the dialogue. Everything is so well put together. The rivalry and the way it's told and the lead up to it, beautifully written. And then the rest of the movie happens and it's just like, oh wow, that's That's it. Like I said earlier, the Lin Kuei attack on the Shiraryu will almost always be interesting as a viewer because it's just so simple, yet such a fascinating dynamic. Plus the amazing actors in Joe Taslim and Hiroyuki Sanada, there was almost no way it wouldn't be the best scene in the movie, and there's a reason they released it early and used it so heavily in the marketing. But next up we have, oh lord, Mortal Kombat Annihilation 2 over here, everyone. Mortal Kombat Battle of the Realms. Jeez, what scenes in this movie are even good? Fight scenes, almost all of them are too fast to the point of being incomprehensible and only last around 10 seconds. And even if they don't, they all look like anime battles. Character moments feel unearned and random, and god, anything that has to do with plot, if you can even call it that, don't touch it with a 10-foot pole for this movie. God, what's even good about this film? The Scorpion vs. Sub-Zero fight isn't even a standout. That's like the least I expect. But I have to say something, because even though pretty much every scene in this movie is really bad, there has to be one that's the least bad out of all of them, aka the best scene in the movie, and that's what we're looking at today. So I think it's gonna have to be one of the scenes with the cyber ninjas. They're the coolest thing about the movie because their designs are cool and some of the stuff they do is kind of neat. Yeah, that's it. So either I go with the initial scene at the Lin Kuei Temple where they're introduced and they capture Smoke, or I go with the one at the container yard where they fight Sub-Zero and Scorpion at the same time. Why are they at a container yard? I don't know. I don't care enough to follow this movie's plot. I'll go with the container yard one because, I don't know, it's cooler, I guess. Scorpion is there and he's like the best thing about these movies. So yeah, that's the explanation you get there. I hate Battle of the Realms, and I hope to never speak about it positively ever again. Next, we have Snowblind. Shockingly for me, a lot of people really enjoy this movie and put it up there with some of the best Mortal Kombat movies. And I think that's kind of strange because usually the fan base is very opposed to stuff that's this different, and that's kind of how I feel about the movie, but all power to the people who love it. Great for getting enjoyment out of it, I guess. And even though I'm not the biggest fan in the world or anything, there is some great stuff in this movie. For example, the final battle. Minus the very end, but the rest of it is pretty cool. The focus on the Black Dragon is something I can appreciate about the movie, and seeing so many of its members in this cool fight scene, even though they all get destroyed, is super fun. It is also quite cool to see Sub-Zero and Scorpion working together, even though it's not under the circumstances I would prefer. It's still better than Battle of the Realms. Another fun part of the movie is the training montage where Sub trains Kenshi. It's not really a character dynamic you would expect. Kenshi and Sub did team up briefly during Deception, but it wasn't this type of student-mentor thing, and it's a little weird, but it's also super fun, so I don't really care. Especially since now Kenshi is blind, and him having to adapt to that and learn how to sense the area around him with the classic catch the chicken game, parkour, and then using the sword to slice the watermelon. And you see Kenshi learn over time, which is quite entertaining. But my personal favorite scene of the movie is the one that's the most accurate to the games, and that is Kenshi's origin. We've never seen Kenshi's origin story on how he became blinded and how he found Sento play out on screen the way we've seen Scorpion and Sub-Zero's, or oh my god, Jax's arms for the 100th time. So it was really awesome to see it play out here, more or less the same way it was in the games, which is a rare thing you can say about this movie. Seeing Shang Tsung manipulate Kenshi and take him to the Well of Souls, taking the power to make himself younger while leaving Kenshi to die, but him finding Sento, it's great stuff, and was the only moment of the movie where I truly felt I was watching an adaptation of Mortal Kombat. But now we have the latest Mortal Kombat movie to be released, which will not be the case by the end of this year, Cage Match, my personal favorite of the Legends movies. Yes, hot take, I know, but it's just a fun time with Andrew Bowen bringing in a great performance as Johnny, a super interesting NetherRealm-based storyline, which is just very cool to see that mixed in with Johnny's side of the story and universe. Like the last movie, I think the final battle is a major highlight here, where Johnny takes on Shinnok. Some of it is not very good, particularly the Serena stuff, and Don't really think about it too heavily when it comes to the lore of the actual games because that's just not really what this movie is going for, but it's just another really cool fight with fun moments, such as Johnny doing the nut punch on Shinnok, which is somehow funnier than him doing it on Goro. And just the great choreography and destruction of the city around them. Is it exaggerating a bit how strong Johnny should be? Yes. Yes, it is. By like a lot. But it's still cool. I also really like Johnny's narration of his backstory at the beginning of the movie. It was just very fun having Andrew Bowen describe Johnny's past in his Johnny Cage voice, making jokes, talking about getting bullied, becoming a martial artist, becoming an actor. It was really fun and immediately told me this Legends movie might be a little bit different than the other ones I've seen. It was also really cool to get a depiction of Johnny Cage's backstory that wasn't legacy. God, that was the most bland, boring, awful episode of season 1, which is saying something because there was literally an episode where Raiden was a mental hospital patient. How do you even outdo that? But my favorite scene of the movie is the one where Johnny fights his agent who turns out to be a demon from the Netherrealm. Not only is it just really fun and funny, but it's also Gilbert Gottfried's last ever role, and he absolutely kills it. His voice, the jokes, his chemistry with Andrew Bowen's Johnny, plus how it relates to and leads into the Netherrealm plot of the movie. It's gotta be my favorite. But yeah, that'll do it. You guys let me know in the comments what your favorite scene was from each of these movies. And while you're down there, make sure to check out the links in the description to my merch store, Twitter, and Instagram. Also, make sure to give this video a like to show your support, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell to know when I next upload a new video. And with that being said, that's it for this video, my fellow oddities. I'll see you next time.